Our economic governance program and the platform we currently support all started with the work that we did with the IMF, the International Monetary Fund. It all started at a time that the government of Ghana fiscal position, and by fiscal position I mean the monetary situation of the country wasn't all that good in the years 2013, where the cedi was depreciating quite faster. And the only solution that was left to the government of Ghana was to go to the IMF for what we call a credit facility that could bring in additional money to support the government spending. In that process, Oxfam in Ghana, together with our partners, Oxfam US, thought that there was a need for us to engage in that process because previously Ghana had been to the IMF for 16 times and we still have similar problems.
So we thought it is important for us to participate clearly in that process and engage not just government but also the IMF to see how we can bring some of our recommendation and expectation to bear in the process. And that has been a process that was very fruitful because we're able to work closely with government and even with the IMF. Beyond that, now that we have the bailout was over, we transitioned from the CSO platform on the IMF to the economic governance platform. This is also to help us to monitor that space where government is expected to put in stronger fiscal discipline in terms of management of the economy.
So this time around in 2013, Oxfam together with our Ghanaian civil society actors decided to say that we need to engage the IMF and say that if you go to Ghana with an austere program, you are rather going to worsen the plight of the very poor whose lives and livelihood depend on these social services or public services like education, health, agriculture, social protection. So we needed the IMF to make sure that the government of Ghana was not going to reduce its spending on these public services. And that for us was also the first time in the history of Ghana that government of Ghana and IMF in a program allowed civil society to participate in that process. So the economic governance platform started as the IMF civil society platform, which was to engage the IMF on this credit facility that the IMF was going to give to the government of Ghana.
So as part of our initiative of linking participation and enhancing economic advancements, the Economic Governance Platform, together with GACC, partnered with Oxfam to influence the World Bank Country Partnership Framework. This is a tool that the World Bank engages with partner countries to help them expand their development and to promote the twin goals of the World Bank, which is to ending extreme poverty and promoting shared prosperity.
To assure effectiveness of our work, we have currently expanded the scope to also engage the World Bank in terms of its processes that it carries out before loan agreements are signed with government. As to make us very to enhance our understanding of the process, we internally had support from Oxfam USA to equip us to understand the World Bank processes and points that we could also engage. Fortunately for us, our excitement was tickled by the fact that our interest coincided with the development of Ghana's country partnership framework, which was then at the draft stage by the World Bank, and we thought that that was a good point to engage in. So we had to understand what the CPF is about, what is its focus, and then what are the spaces that we have as civil society to be able to engage in that process.
As part of the process to influence the World Bank Country Partnership Framework, we at the Economic Governance Platform, together with GACC and Oxfam, organized a 1.5-day consultative dialogue with CSOs to make inputs into the CPF. This provided an opportunity for CSOs to make relevant inputs into the CPF that will ensure that nobody is left behind. So this 1.5-day consultative dialogue also provided the opportunity for CSOs to learn on future engagement with the World Bank. I welcome you all to this consultative dialogue.
Most of our civil society organizations in Ghana are very new to the whole CPF exercise. So Oxfam took it on board to engage and kind of get all the key CSOs together. So then we will speak as one voice in influencing the CPF process. So the starting point was to get our colleagues in US, the Oxfam US group, who organized training sessions for the local Ghana CSOs. So that kind of helped us to understand, one, what is the whole process is about, and number two, how do we engage the bank?
So having had relationship with the IMF and the World Bank through what was termed the civil society platform on IMF bailout, it's good for me to mention that the economic governance platform, which is organizing the meeting today, came out of an engagement civil society had on the IMF bailout for Ghana. So it was a group of civil society organizations and academic institutions that came together to monitor implementation of the IMF bailout to Ghana.
Looking at World Bank policies and how it aligns with that of our policies, and how CSOs also see the need for CSOs to also engage the World Bank on their strategies. And I think that is a very important thing for all of us to do, so that as they align their strategies or they formulate their strategies, it would also align to the needs and the peculiar needs of the country, and also from the CSO perspective and how we want to see Ghana and how we want to develop Ghana. And I think that it all helps in the development of our country.
We recognize that to deal with governance issues, to deal with public financial management issues in the country, it would be important to engage the multilaterals in what they do with government to develop the country, i.e. the CPF and the like, but also to develop relationship with them to a point that we can leverage on their influence to get certain things done right.
The country partnership framework is a kind of a document which the World Bank uses to engage in the country. In other words, it spells out what the bank intends to do in the period. It's a document that guides the World Bank's operation. Normally, every 4 to 6 years, the World Bank undertakes the CPF exercise, and it kind of follows every country's electoral cycle. So right after the election, you will see the World Bank engaging government, i.e. the new government, civil society organizations, and other citizen groups. The idea is to collect as much information as possible and then collate those information, which now forms the basis of which area the bank should invest or which area the bank should support, whether it's technical or financial.
For the initial discussion, deliberations that we held in 22nd, I think September, I felt some of the recommendations and deliberations made by the CSOs, I felt maybe between 70 to 80% have been captured by the bank in the present CPF, which we acknowledge and are grateful to them, but we hope that certain areas will be addressed more. And also we also want to put in a mechanism where when the CPF is approved, we have a yearly or biannual audit of the implementation, so that issues like corruption, misaligning some of the funds will be prevented, and also strengthen accountability between CSOs and government and the bank itself. ideally, it has brought together CSOs from different spheres of life, and they brought their expertise to impact the country partnership framework, which I feel is ideal. You know, issues like gender inequality are still growing, and COVID has made us know that the inequality gap has grown. So indeed, when we influence the country partnership framework, we try to lessen the growing gap and also promote the development for the country.
CSOs have a key role to play in terms of governance in general, because more or less we represent the people at the grassroots. And then what we recommended was taken into consideration because of the data, because of the information, and because of the experiences we provided. And to me, that is a new development and a way to move forward where we can influence positively policies that will affect populations.
The World Bank has been very good in working with CSOs since the beginning of the process. So we submitted our input to them based on restudying the document and then the results from the various thematic groups. And the bank also looked at the document. Last week, they also engaged us again with a revised CPF. So today we've met here. What we are trying to do is to look at the bank's revised CPF alongside the recommendation we put forward. We want to look at every single of our recommendations along the the World Bank's revised CPF document to see which of our recommendations have been captured and which of them haven't, and also if there's any window of opportunity for us to feed back to the bank once the document is still at the development stage.
We are hopeful that some of the suggestions we've made in education, for example, we are emphasizing that education should target those parts of Ghana that are most vulnerable, where school performance is low, where access to ICT, because we know that is what will make or break the back of inequality. If the World Bank and other development partners can invest in a way that those parts of Ghana, especially northern Ghana, the urban slum communities, they can have access to better ICT technology. It will make them more competitive with the richer part of Ghana.
So for the public sector, power sector debt, we propose that the bank should find a way through its technical and legal expertise to help the government negotiate some of these agreements, because I think we are overproducing power now and we should be able to export them. And also facilitate the long asset stranding policy for government to deal with fallout in the increasing push for renewable energy.
The infrastructure, you see, if you call for the infrastructure, it's a positive call. So they could also go in there and then constantly they limit it to the machines in the production area. There's a big shortfall in the area of processing, the value addition. Let me just take one sector for one product for you, cocoa. If you look at the amount of cocoa we've produced over the decade, 10 years, and you go out there, what we produce leaves this country. If Doc, you are coming from the Western, you can help me. How would the farmers feel if they get to hear that what they produced, the value chain out there when you leave Ghana, would generate billions of dollars, and all they get is to bag this thing. I mean, it's a raw product, beans in sack, and then it leaves here. If you ask me about value addition, I personally would think maybe we've added less than 10% of value to what we produced, because we only put them in sack and then we take it outside. Sardonically, even the sacks we are importing.
From the energy perspective, I see some level of support towards institutional framework, and I believe that much has gone into it, but there is a need for the World Bank team to continue their efforts towards improving the performance of our energy sector institutions, because for me, energy is the backbone for one of the backbones for our development, and it's important that if we have stronger institutions, their sustainability will be ensured, the sector's performance will be ensured, the commercial and the distribution and the transmission losses that we experience would also be ensured if there are stronger institutions.
From the onset, you see the broad key areas: education, health, agriculture, and the rest, and finance, energy. But then down in between, you saw gender, you see the youth. So it's a good thing. So because the moment gender is mentioned, it stands as a central point for all the thematic areas, either cross-cutting or whatever it cuts across. So I think it's a great learning for me. And also knowing that this is not an advocacy space, but a policy space. But then we can also amplify our voices as civil society, women's rights organization in this policy space, so that when we go back and in our various project areas, we can link policy to advocacy.
Based on our lessons from our engagement with the IMF between 2013 and 2017, thereabout, the World Bank, as part of the multinational institution supporting the government of Ghana, launched a process of developing their country partnership framework, which is more or less like a strategy that will guide their relationship with the government of Ghana and the funding that they will provide for the government of Ghana for the next couple of years. And so based on our lessons from dealing with the IMF on how to bring civil society voice into issues such as this, we decided to mobilize once again using the same civil society platform to say, let's engage in this process with the World Bank to make sure that the voices of Ghanaian citizens, the voices of civil society get heard into this, because this country partnership framework will become more or less the document that will guide the funded relationship between the government of Ghana and the World Bank for the next 4 to 5 years.
We have had a very good experience being engaged with the CDF process in Ghana. It's been interesting because we've been able to contribute, but more importantly, to also learn what in helping to shape the bank priorities for Ghana. I think that as an organization that is involved in championing good governance, we feel that being part of the process allows us to bring to bear the grassroots experiences of vulnerable Ghanaians. And we are hopeful that some of the inputs that we are making, if they are truly taken on board, the issue of inequality, for us in St. Ghana, our strategic direction is making Ghana work for equity.
In as much as these exercises will require huge funding, I think CSOs can create a space where we should also be interested in this type of support that we are getting from the World Bank and see how it is benefiting our community. I think that's something that we should be able to do.
There's been quite steady progress on the part of the economic governance platform, and like I said, from the beginning of a very loose civil society actors who came together to push for ideas around civil society participation in economic governance issues, to an institution or a platform that has received recognition both by the IMF and the World Bank, is no mean an achievement, to the extent that the IMF, anytime they visit Ghana, and even the country office here in Ghana, always invite the platform into meetings to hear from civil society, which hitherto was not the situation. And so it's become more or less like a voice and a representation of Ghanaian civil society on issues of economic governance. As civil society, we want to set up parallel mechanisms of monitoring the programs and projects that the World Bank will be supporting the government of Ghana to implement in that process, so that we can have information that is systematically collected and can go back to the World Bank as feedback, and the government of Ghana to consider in making sure that they do the necessary improvement before the end of the program. And then hopefully by the end of the program, civil society will be able to generate additional evidence as part of evaluation of the current country partnership framework that can feed into the next set of country partnership framework that the bank will be developing with the government of Ghana.
The results coming from the World Bank with regards to the draft CPF, which seems to highlight some of the things that were raised by CSOs, I think gives some room for comfort that this is just the beginning, and maybe as we step forward, we can see more of our input being considered by them. But I think that it also goes beyond just consideration of input. There's a lot that needs to be done. And I think that for me, that's the most important step that we should take as both an individual organization and as a group. And that's what we see Oxfam is trying to do. We see how we can better influence what the World Bank is doing so that the whole engagement or consultation is just not one for the cameras or to tick the boxes, but it's actually a process that is well defined to ensure active or collective input from everyone, to ensure that whatever intervention is being proposed by them actually trickles down to the beneficiaries. And I think for me, that's the most important step that we should be looking at taking. How do we ensure that ongoing World Bank projects, which are meant to benefit beneficiaries or even the state as a whole, are being implemented? Whether there's value for money, how are other groups such as CSOs involved in the whole project? I think that's something that for me we should be looking at.
So I believe that this platform is great and the World Bank is doing well for involving the civil societies, and this conversation will not end here. I believe that we can do more to help for the beneficiation and then the development of our nation.
I think there should be more on board from all sectors, faith-based organizations, from everyone to come together to actually help improve our input in terms of developing these working paper to influence policies. I think we should collaborate more and efficiently so that these things can help us, and then we can also help the people that we help. Yeah.
In civil society, we tend to operate in silo, and the more we can operate as a coalition, that will amplify our voice and those that will represent the vulnerable groups. For us in SEN, we always operate in coalition, and that's why we're very happy to be part of this. And that's why I'm saying to my colleagues that let us not just stop here. After contributing, let us institutionalize our collective voice by issuing a Ghanaian, and I emphasize a Ghanaian civil society performance assessment of the performance of the implementation of the core CDF. It's for 5 years, so every year we can assess.
So on behalf of myself at the Economic Governance Platform and GACC, we'd like to express our heartfelt thanks to Oxfam in Ghana for the support that they've given us throughout the years and in making this process possible. Together we advance the development of Ghana and promote shared equality.
This is not the end, but this is rather the beginning of another leg of our engagement with the bank as they go about the process of approving and implementing, monitoring and evaluating the CPF that we'll want to continue to engage them in this process, and we'll continue to provide that leadership and voice from Ghanaian civil society that can go a long way to support in alleviating poverty and inequality in Ghana.